Jesse Love battling hard, trying to not give his teammate any room down low, protecting that line. Oh, we got big trouble on the front straightaway.
They're going to put out the red.
Red flag is out.
Kofoid looking to the inside of our race leader, has connected with the number 12.
This recent on-track incident is basically the ARCA Series in a nutshell. Major wrecks in ARCA are nothing new. Hell, that's why race fans have coined the phrase ARCA breaks. But if you were to ask any NASCAR fan on how they feel about the ARCA Series today, you'll be met with mostly negative opinions. What happened to the ARCA Series? Before we get into that, here's a brief history lesson. The series was founded in 1953 as the Midwest Association for Race Cars, or in short, MARC. John Markham, who was a friend and former competitor of NASCAR founder Bill France Sr., created MARC as a northern concept to the southern-based NASCAR. What made the series so successful in its infancy was that they focused on locations that NASCAR didn't race at. But as stock car expanded in the late 60s and early 70s, NASCAR and ARCA decided to do a bit of a collab. 1964 was the start of a new era for the series. Not only did they become part of Daytona Speed Weeks for the first time, but in that same year, they decided to change their name officially to the Automobile Racing Club of America, aka ARCA. With the addition of super speedways, mile-and-a-half tracks, as well as more short tracks on the schedule, the series hit its peak in the 80s and 90s. You had a good combination of veteran drivers as well as amateur drivers and even young up-and-comers coming in the series. Veterans such as Frank Kimmel, Tim Steele, Bob Keselowski, Benny Parsons, and Ken Schrader made a name for themselves in the series. They used this either as an opportunity to propel themselves to the NASCAR Cup Series eventually, or decided to just make a career of it here. Frank Kimmel is the best example of making a career of it in ARCA, as he went on to win a series record 80 career wins, along with being a 10-time champion. Another unique part was that you could make a name for yourself even if you were a part-time driver. The greatest examples of this on the super speedways included the late Grant Adcox, as well as Bobby Gerhart. With an established group of veteran drivers, many of whom had NASCAR experience, the talent level rose consistently each and every year. Once we got rolling into the 2000s, however, the ARCA Series began to change a bit. So before we get into that, we also have to remember what makes the ARCA Series, well, the ARCA Series. You can have all the talent in the world, that's good and all, and spectacular racing. However, the ARCA Series is well known for its massive wrecks, coining the phrase ARCA breaks.
And the far impacts the wall coming out of turn number 4.
So, tough break for him getting shuffled back there, but that's what happens when you get Frank Kimmel.
Oh, Joey Miller slides! Joey Miller slides, and we heard smoke coming out of the two-car Gailey. So we're racing to the checkered flag. Oh, we got Todd Cleaver on the road. Oh, we got cars everywhere. 20 cars. Coming to the checkered flag yellow. Who's going to get here first? Oh, we've got Cleaver flipping down the back straightaway. He lands on all four wheels. More trouble on the back straightaway.
Oh, the 49 car.
To get this 7th title is absolutely just a dream come true.
We got a big one over in turn 2.
Shot right up the racetrack.
Yeah.
Hardly.
Replay, we can see exactly what
and we got more cars involved. The 95 getting tagged right there, Roger Williams, and the 9 of Joey Miller is involved. The 2 car is Eric Almirola and the Joe Gibbs entry.
Stuck it in. There's Montoya right to the bottom. Little impact to the left side door there. Wow.
A little damage to the rear bumper also of that number 4.
Try to get in that hole that's not there. Then you see Matt Carter runs in the back of the 65 of Justin Marks. Bobby Gerhart does a great job. Michael Annett does a great job avoiding this. And everybody else, it seems like, is involved. Frank Kimmel, that white car spinning down through the middle of the racetrack. He spins in between 2 or 3 cars. Here comes Ricky Stenhouse right at his front end. Frank's going to slide out of the way of him.
As the 2000s came, so did a lot of changes. Many of the established stars had either retired or couldn't find a ride anymore, and the younger stars were starting to emerge to replace them. This unfortunately rapidly decreased the talent level. Not long after, you began to see these races devolve from actual stock car races to straight up demolition derbies. This is where we get into the question, what happened to the ARCA series? Once we got into the mid-2010s, ARCA found themselves struggling financially. The only solution was to get bought out by NASCAR, and they did in 2018. 2020 marked the first season NASCAR officially sanctioned ARCA. Along with this acquisition, they also decided to put the East and West series along with ARCA. This is where a bunch of problems arose for racing fans. Not only was the lack of competition apparent, but also the lack of driver etiquette was on full display. For example, here's Tanner Gray completely hooking Daniel Dye. But they didn't even end up fighting afterwards. No, their dads ended up arguing with each other. This brings up the most important issue in my opinion. With the lack of competitive veteran drivers, now you have these teenagers in top equipment in the ARCA series with nobody to really police them. The greatest example of this was when freaking Tanner Gray took a Snapchat video while he was doing his freaking ARCA test at Daytona. This is supposed to be a development grassroots series for NASCAR, but with the lack of competition and driver etiquette, what are these young and up-and-coming drivers even learning anymore? And to get more into the lack of competition, just take a look at the ARCA East and West series. You are very hard-pressed to find an extremely competitive race. I was at New Smyrna earlier this year, and these were the only two competitive cars all night. If it wasn't for the late models and modifieds being there, it wouldn't have been a packed house. Also, once NASCAR ended up buying ARCA, you started to see some of these family-run teams begin to shut down. Once these teams transitioned from Gen 4 to Gen 6 bodies, as well as implementing an entirely new rulebook from NASCAR, competitive teams as well as car counts for each race began to trickle down. For those who haven't watched ARCA in a while, if you're wondering what the series looks like today, well, here are some highlights.
She's trying to keep it locked on that yellow line, staying on the bottom, staying in line. Tony Breidinger right now in the fourth spot, and there's contact. Drew Dollar hard into the wall.
I think her and Tony got together there.
Big hit for Drew Dollar.
Start 3 of their 4 drivers up at the front, but per the rule, pulling out that backup car would make them go all the way to the back for the number 25 team. Now, in talking to Tony today, she said, yeah, Kate, I'm still a little bit sore, but mentally I'm feeling okay.
Yeah, he had nowhere to go there, obviously, not being able to really react to that car getting spun behind him. So just an innocent bystander, so that's unfortunate for Brayton there. And
Custer with the 0-3 with nowhere to go, and watch.
Oh my gosh, great camera shot, but man, that's
Richard Garvey riding up over.
Looks like a stadium truck.
I know how David Gilliland feels. Like, Drew wrecks all your shit when he's driving for you, and then he wrecks it all when he's racing against you. So I can understand why he punched him in the eye over Bristol last year. Just typical bonehead move by Drew. He's killed a couple of my cars here, and now he's killed one and wasn't even driving for it. I mean, just look at it. Just pure lack of talent. Great kid, does not need to be a race car driver.
Looks like obviously Amber was sideways, and then the 73 of Andy with nowhere to go. Sean Cora actually with the 8 nowhere to go either, ran underneath the 73.
Ooh, a little help from behind there on Amber.
Yeah, it looked like Jason Kitzmiller, the 97, got into Amber as they were going into the tunnel turn. And then nowhere for these other drivers to go.
The 71.
Yeah, the 71 just trying to move inside her and actually got loose and took them both into the outside safer barrier.
Yeah, probably a little wheel hop here for the 71 as he turned down underneath, just lost the rear end, and they were both along for the ride at that point.
Yeah, Amber gave him plenty of room. He just got loose.
So while some things never change, like consistent ARCA brakes, you can definitely tell the series has changed a lot in the past 20 to 25 years. The reason the series is critiqued by so many NASCAR fans is quite simple. The purpose of it in the beginning was to be a series for grassroots racers. That era is long gone, and now it consists of drivers either in their teens teens or early 20s. A lot of them seem to drive in over their heads at times. With no veterans to police the series anymore, these young drivers are consistently doing the dumbest stuff on track and not getting checked for it. Some of y'all are probably thinking, well, if you don't prefer ARCA as a proper development series, where should these young drivers go? I think driving in late models, sprint cars, or even modifieds have way more of a benefit than sticking it out in ARCA. I'm not saying that these forms of motorsport should be solely used for the development of future NASCAR drivers, but I think competing in these series like the Cars Tour will help develop these drivers in the long run. A lot of these late model drivers race for a living, and this is how they pay their bills. So if one of these young guys with some money comes in and takes them out, you're gonna have to deal with them after the race. Unlike in ARCA, where you can consistently take each other out with no consequences or care whatsoever. So in conclusion, what happened to the ARCA series? It's devolved from a once great grassroots series to now just a series where rich kids can buy a ride. You can also point to the Gen 6 bodies being a major factor. With costs being so high to operate in the series now more than ever, the end result is now only a few competitive cars each and every week with way less car counts. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about the ARCA series today. Is there still time to change it? Should they just get rid of it entirely, or should they convert it into a totally different series? And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.